Welcome back and thank you for staying with KTN Prime. My guests are still here with me, George Kindiki, who is an advocate, and Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch. So now let's talk about IEBC. That particular selection panel gave their report, and it was on Thursday last week that we saw President William Ruto forward those names to Parliament for vetting. Now we have, let me just give you a list of those that are on that particular list. Erastus Ethekon, who has been nominated as chairperson. Then we have Anne Nderitu, member. Moses Alutalala, member. Mary Karen Sorobit, a member. Hassan Nur Hassan, member. Francis Adwal, equally a member, who is ideally the commissioner. Fahima Abdullahi, equally a member. Now, let's talk about your reaction. Who should I start? Kindiki, should I start with you? I mean, when you saw this particular list, what was the first thing that went into your mind? Forgetting what Kenyans are saying.
Well, but personally, I think the personality of the chair is what surprised me. The rest didn't. First, he's a junior, very junior in law. I mean, my junior too, and that should not be an issue, definitely.
Yeah.
But if you look at the calling of the office, honestly, it calls for experience in matters law, in matters administrative, but more importantly also, it is a calling to a very high office beyond presidency. Because you remember, the president himself will have to present papers before him. He's actually the returning officer of the presidential election. Experience, which means convincing Kenyans to ability and capacity, will be important. I've seen the personalities that were in competition, Amadi, Nechai, for that position. I'm not rooting for any at all. All I'm saying is youth, young people must be given a chance.
Okay.
But merit and experience
Equally
probably obtains
matters.
more than what age will give. But of course, age, contextually and ordinarily by parity, would constitute time for purpose of experience. I have seen young judges. I have seen mature older judges. The way they respond to pressure of the time in a context is very different. The balance of the contextual issues that emerge at that time demands a lot of stability of brain emotions and many other things. So I would say congratulations to him, of course, as he heads to Parliament. But I feel also that he needs to prove a lot, because already there are questions even in the legal profession as to how we got ourselves there. But remember also that maybe it is time the young people are given a chance over time to see what they can do with this country. All we are looking for is impartiality. By the way, it doesn't matter who you put into that office. Let me tell you, if it was me, I'll be looked at within certain contextual background.
Yeah.
What is my tribe? Who have I associated with? Who have I represented before? So on and so forth. And we're looking at, if you walk to Turkana and look at the young man, because he was behind me in law school, and who he's worked with, assuming he's worked for Nanok, and Nanok is an ally, then you will be like, okay, that's the connection. So there'll always be a path that forms a thread towards connectivity. But remember, this country, and any society for that matter, there is always a difference. There must be a difference in society among, if it's in a family, you will say the firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, the differences will be seen. Like they are night. And then there's the clan, there's the tribe, there's the country. This country must have differences for us to be able to live. It is those differences, economic differences, socio-political differences, that make us what we are, because we are human beings created with differences. But most importantly with this, that we are predetermined for separation in differences, the societal fissures among us, on account of very many issues. There are issues that separate us, but there are dominant issues that also separate us. Ethnicity is probably the most dominant issue that separates us.
Yeah.
Meaning you must come from a certain background. Be Asian, be Taita, be Turkana, be Luo, be whatever it is. When then you are appointed and you come from a certain ethnicity, that becomes an issue for discussion and an issue to be able to, an issue for debate as to what will be the bias in the circumstances. If you look at the constitution of an empanelment or constitution of the IEBC right now as proposed, you would look at the ethnic composition, and then you'll be able to forebode what then will be the bias in the context of opposition and government.
Okay.
And that's why that debate cannot stop and will not stop. Even after the outcome, still the debate will be tied into the outcome. And therefore, what I say is, we're dumb to the extent that we must we must live in the context of differences, because that's what we're predestined to do. For instance, we have put it into law, recognize ethnicity, and you say you can't compose a government of one ethnic group. For instance, it doesn't matter whether it's meritorious or not.
Yeah.
The reason is that is forbidden by law. Democracy itself is even worse. Democracy presupposes numbers. The more the ethnic group, the more the pressure they have that can sustain resources to their end on account of the numbers that they behold, because that's what democracy portends in the first instance. So we are socialized to numbers, and election is about numbers, and the outcome is about numbers, and the numbers are presided over by somebody who constitutes the numbers too. And therefore, where do we run to? We must live with agreement that even in those differences, we must sanitize ourselves to the Puritan approach, or probably we keep guessing that something good will come out.
All right, Osido, coming to you, even as you tell us, do you think the IEBC selection panel went above board, or was it lackluster? Perhaps you can talk about the fact that just the other day, the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, did say that people should forward concerns to JLAC. But let's not forget, we have seen it day in, day out, that the National Assembly or Parliament is an appendage of the executive. So even if we forward our concerns, what is the likelihood that they will actually be considered?
Actually, the likelihood is almost either minimal or nil, because this Parliament has given us a trend and has actually set a precedence in terms of how they navigate and manage their businesses and businesses of the House, which in most cases have not been to the expectations of Kenyans. And if that would have been the case, then we would be having new parliamentarians today, post June 25th, when the mace was actually lifted and, taken to some shadow assembly somewhere. But given be it as it may, given our political context, it therefore becomes so hard and difficult that the House that you expect for Kenyans to submit their petitions and their concerns to is a House that they have no confidence in, because they've taken back that confidence and they are saying we have no confidence in you. So again, Parliament, particularly the National Assembly, will have to work hard and do more to, again, rebuild that confidence of Kenyans in the House. And it reminds me of a conversation that we had with some parliamentary officials, particularly from the Budget Office, when as County Governance Watch, we wanted to just have a discussion around how do we open the budget, how do we open Parliament to citizens and allow them to engage with what parliamentarians engage with. And I was really amazed and encouraged by the openness that we saw from the Office of the Clerk and some of those other officers that we engaged with, even for them to come out of Parliament and engage with young people, with citizens in town halls and having conversations on the budget and all that. And I was really impressed by the CS body the other day, because Treasury has also more or less picked up a similar traction, and they're saying even a cabinet secretary can actually come out and discuss with people on the finance bill. Mheshimiwa Wetangula needs to probably, with due respect, be informed that as a head of that House, he needs to really bring in new thinking, innovation, and new methods or dynamics of doing things to attract Kenyans. I foresee a scenario where almost all these parliamentarians are going to be voted out, National Assembly. Now, how do you bring in that, how do you encourage both those who are already in the House and even those who are seeking to want to come in? There has to be a pendulum, an opportunity, a pivotal area where these conversations can take place. That space is not there because wabunge wanasalimiwa everywhere. Some of them are even scared to go to their constituencies. So how do you now want to excite and entice Kenyans to send petitions to them, even if it is either by hard copy or through online or email? It will be so difficult for people to trust that what they say in those writings and in their petitions are going to be captured in the manner that they expect, and that feedback is also going to be given to them. Because that space, every day we see Parliament closing that opportunity for Kenyans to want to engage, which is why for me, for the election, the IEBC selection panel, I was actually looking forward to, and part of the reasons why I did not apply as a commissioner is because I thought I knew almost 3/4 of the selection panel. So conflict of interest and all that. But they didn't meet my expectations, actually, and Wakili, because if you asked Kenyans out there, because one of the things I expected was that the selection panel would boost the confidence and trust of Kenyans in the IEBC. But the process itself, we forgot some names, we are going to include them after the interviews are over. Honestly, for such a highly politically high-octane political country like Kenya, there are mistakes that you cannot be able to make. And hence, even in the kind of names that we are having right now. So for me, coupled with what Parliament needed to do or needs to do is boost the confidence of Kenyans in the Commission. Trust levels must go up. Whatever they do, whatever the new commissioners do, is really up to them. It's up to their own business. And Kenyans, we are here to help where we can, provide technical support, advisories, and etc. But the bulk of that work is for them. Number two is we take note of the assignment, actually, that must be done. March 2024 boundaries, the limitation, the deadline was there. What do? We have 11 electoral units, both constituencies and wards, that do not have representatives. And some of them every day, Mheshimiwa Rais keeps, getting the latest is Mbere MP, who is now CS for Public Service. What do we do with these people? And what does that mean for sovereignty of the people, representation, and really the principle of separation of powers, again, between executive and the judicial, and legislature, representation of the people, etc. Issues of voter registration for those particular 11 plus electoral units and or voter verification. Because I think by law now, we should, ahead of the 2027 general elections, IEBC should be registering people, new voters, etc. What is the state and what is the stake of all this? And of course, the third thing that I think is also paramount is looking at the space or the roles between the role of the commission and commissioners and the secretariat. Where we have been left for almost 4 years, no commission, no nothing, and you have a secretariat full of staff headed by my good friend Marjan, and they can't do anything. They can literally do nothing because we do not have commissioners. What does that mean to our political context, to our constitutional implementation aspects, the IEBC Act, Electoral Elections Act? Where does that leave? And of course, again, as I'm sure Wakili knows, that we've had some successful Supreme Court petitions on the presidential petition where that particular question has also been raised around the role and functions of the commissioners and also the secretariat. So what must we do? Because in my view, sometimes, actually, I imagine that had we had a strong secretariat, these things we are talking about, by elections, boundaries, delimitation, among others, would have actually been finished by now. But in a scenario where no commissioners, but we have a secretariat that is almost fully functional with very highly qualified personnel, why are we tying their hands? And what does that therefore mean? For example, as I finish on this, I came across an advisory that the IEBC secretariat sought from the Supreme Court on their roles and functionalities around what needs to happen on some of these critical issues. As a country, that is really standing at a very huge global pedestal, we should not be left in such a confused, I remember you used the word quagmire. This should not be what Kenya is. But we are here because all these things, again, go back to where we started. The political culture, the political elite, and really the kind of people that we have and the kind of manner in which we set our institutions. So on this one, I think IEBC is probably being set up to failure, but we give some credit to some of the very illustrious CVs. Wakili has issues with the chair.
Okay.
I don't know him. In fact, I was surprised because I was hoping that maybe Mheshimiwa Anna Madi, the first ever chair lady of commission, would ascend to the power. Professor Aduol, because of his expertise in boundaries and statistical mathematics, quite instrumental for IEBC. But again, the question is, can we separate electoral issues and boundaries issues? In other jurisdictions, Ashley, if you allow me,
yes,
in the US, in Nigeria, in Ghana, that is how it is happening.
Okay. So
the National Elections Commission of Nigeria, for example, does not engage in boundary issues. If you go to the US, again, if you look at how their congressional issues are organized, you don't see this kind of confusion and mixing that is taking place.
Okay.
So we are hoping that IEBC, the new commission and commissioners, will allow Kenyans to speak, and that when we speak and provide progressive, innovative measures and mechanisms, that those will find a very safe space and a platform for them to be taken in and maybe be tested, including the fact that I don't have to travel all the way to Yoma to go and cast a vote. Even if I can send Ashley M-Pesa, not that I send her money, but if I can send her M-Pesa, and that
you
if
can
it is,
easily
why can't I vote online and it is counted as a valid vote?
All right, in 1 minute, because we're out of time. I mean, he's raised a number of issues that need to be taken care of by the new IEBC team. But let's not forget that there are Kenyans who have threatened to go to court, which is likely to slow the process. What happens then? Because we are likely to push further. In 1 minute.
Democracy is not cheap.
Okay.
And the law eventually must be dominant over any issues, interests. And sometimes we need to get it correct to have a stable society. Remember that it is IEBC and the fall of IEBC that we have had a bad history in 2007-2008, purely because of probably IEBC looked together with the courts at the time, where we question the institutional sanctity of at that time. We also cannot afford to question the institutional sanctity of IEBC as it is now. So I think the best thing to do is that which must be tested on law must be tested. Not like I want the job, no.
Yeah.
But we like going to court as lawyers and arguing it out there. But the fact remains that we cannot leave an unjust thing or injustice to prevail over the opportunity to question it before the courts. And if we choose the courts, it means we've not chosen violence. So those that can go to court, and of course it will go to court, I can assure you, it is the good for the society because we choose the rule of law as opposed to taking the other part, which honestly is not imaginable for now.
Okay, no one wants to go down that route. I mean, all right, that's a really good place to end this conversation. Of course, it won't end here, and I'm sure we'll have more of these discussions as days go by, and we see how that vetting process will go on, and equally the courts, what they'll say when it comes to the issue of the impeachment process of the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Well, that's how we wrap things up. Thank you, gentlemen. George Keithy, advocate, and Kevin Osido, Executive Director, County Governance Watch. I'm Ashley Mazuri. Our sign language interpreter is was Damien Evans. I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night.